Hey guys, this is OracleDaphne. My name is Beth, and I'm back today to do another very special reading. This is a charm reading, channeling my dad, Karl Olson. My dad died in 2020, and these are my favorite readings to do. Um, I I just enjoy them so much. I feel like the messages are always really helpful. My dad gave the best advice, and so every time I do these readings, I feel like I get to really channel some of the messages that he would say if he were here. And yeah, it's just very special to me. So if you do see this video pop up, please like, share, and drop a heart in the comments. Subscribe if you're new. I did do the sun sign readings for everyone for the month of November, so definitely check those out. If you can donate at all, to buy me a coffee or, anything more than that is really super appreciated. I appreciate all donations so much. And, I want to say a big thank you to everybody who has donated in the past. I'm just so grateful for everybody and their support. So, I laid out all the charms here and I am getting a whole bunch of messages. So I am going to jump right in and see what I get. For those of you who don't know, also, the reason I have this John Deere t-shirt is because my dad said that when he died and went to heaven, he wanted to get a bigger tractor. And so he has a whole bunch of equipment in heaven, let me tell you. It is out of control, and I have created Karl's garage in spirit for him. So he has I can't tell you how much he has because I don't know, but it's significant. It's sizable. Okay, he has a very large tractor collection in spirit. So, anyways, let's start with the car, okay? Because my dad taught me a lot about taking good care of my vehicle. And for some of you, you're going to get things done on your car if you have a vehicle. You're going to either get some maintenance done, or this is just a reminder to check your oil or to get an oil change. My dad was super huge on checking the oil. He encouraged me always to check the oil. Now, some of you, it's not an oil change, it's car maintenance. My dad also encouraged me to, get things taken care of, get things done. His motto was get it done. So some of you, maybe taking care of your car has been maybe on the back burner, but I feel like it's going to become something on the front burner where you get things done on your vehicle, especially if it's been a long time coming, is what I'm seeing. Okay. I also definitely recommend checking your oil, checking your tires, all the things my dad would say to just kind of keep an eye on my vehicle have always proved helpful. Just keeping up on it, I think that's really the main message. But I feel like it's the bigger stuff. I feel like you're going to be taken care of. I think, as far as my dad, he was kind of chunky when it came to making sure he took care of the larger items. So making sure that was a priority. So anything that was larger maintenance on a vehicle always came first before he did anything fun. And so he was very responsible. I feel like some of you, there's a lot of messages here, a lot of charms here about having stability, having a strong foundation. I feel like some of you are going to be working on your level of stability or your level of foundation, or your material world is going to increase. That's what I want to say. If you haven't been able to, let's just say, take care of some larger ticket things, you're going to be doing some of those larger ticket things. It might come as a surprise to you that you have money to do it. You might somehow come into some money and have money to take care of things, whereas before you might not have. I feel like the main message is to prioritize the things that you need to do first before you go out and let's just say go shopping for new shoes or new clothes that maybe you don't necessarily need at this time. He was very frugal in certain areas. And I'm seeing sort of that coming through here. Some of you might be thinking in very frugal terms during this period of time, saving during this period of time, being very focused on the larger picture, the bigger picture, maybe not necessarily, you know, I don't see people going out and like spending a lot of money, but I feel like the messages is the caution here from my dad is to to wait a little while, think it through before you go out and spend money that you don't necessarily need to be spending. I feel like it's almost like the message is save for a rainy day, save for, you know, the larger ticket things. I feel like you're going to have money regardless, and I feel like you're going to have savings. It's just that I feel like he's basically, the message is to really think through what you're spending your money on, and is it really necessary? And if you already have 20 pairs of shoes, you don't need another pair, and it's easier or better to put the money towards something else that's going to be a larger ticket item. Maybe some of you, it's saving up for a new vehicle, or maybe it's saving up for a new house, or maybe it's saving up to I don't know, buy something that you've wanted that costs a little bit more. There are larger ticket items in the world, you know, like things like very special, rare items, antique items, books. It could be anything that costs a little bit more. And I feel like you're going to be actually able to buy those things if you kind of watch your spending on the little stuff. So a lot of the little stuff will add up. So just kind of make sure you're watching where you're putting your money. That's what he's talking about, or showing me here, I should say. Hang on one second. Okay, what else? It's very interesting. I didn't see this coming as being like a very financial focused reading, but there's a lot of messages about focusing on your finances, and because he you know, really focus on prioritizing the things in his life that he needed. He didn't really do a lot that was frivolous. Like he was very cautious and careful about how he spent his money, his time, all of those things. So this is going to be a time where really just the advice is take a moment of pause before buying anything significant. Okay. And if you were like thinking about going shopping, for example, really ask yourself, do you need those things that you're planning on buying? Definitely have fun, but at the same time, be mindful, because, you know, again, it's like one of those things where maybe what he's saying is you might need the money later in time. And sometimes things don't make sense in the moment. Like last year, I was actually planning to get some things done on my car, but my guide said no. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is not the time. And then some other things came up, and I needed the money. And so I didn't get those things done. And so you might need the money for other things, is what I'm trying to say. Like it's interesting how things shift in time. We don't see things coming. So it's, again, not necessarily a message to scare anybody. It's more about just making sure you're thinking things through. I want to talk about this piece because this is another financial thing. This is, again, something that came that was a found coin. So this is unexpected money, potentially from someone who might speak another language, or lives in another country, or is somebody that is not necessarily your ethnicity or your nationality, or somebody that you would expect to offer financial help from. The caution here is, okay, the one caution I would say is there was a time in which there was someone, I think, in the UK who wanted to buy one of my paintings. And my dad was like totally all about it. Like, yes, sell the painting. Why not? And he yelled at me. He got so upset. I was like, no, I cannot take money from this person. I can't verify the location. Later, the bank told me that had I deposited the check into my account, they would have red flagged my account and ultimately closed my account. And my dad ended up apologizing to me because he was like really thinking that the check that was sent to me was actually good, but it wasn't. So some of you may get like an offer from someplace, and you're going to need to really think through the kind of money that you're getting or the offer that you're getting. Anything that's out of the country that you live in, I would really think carefully, because we have this red here. And again, it's like a I wouldn't say it's a red flag, but it's more of like one of those cautionary tales where some of the older generation might be like, yeah, I'm totally going to accept that. But you're going to want to be careful about what you accept, especially from, let's just say, if it's a check of any kind. Okay, a check specifically of any kind from anyone. Okay. And yeah, like a check, a cashier's check, I think they might have sent some kind of cashier's check. I don't know what it was exactly. I remember it being a check. It could come though in any form, too, like accepting money from someone who you don't know that lives in a different country. Okay. In the form of, let's just say, a check, for something that maybe you're selling. Okay. That is a very specific message. I don't think that's going to apply to everybody. I think mainly the message is here, make sure that if you are accepting money from some place, you know who's sending it to, and you can verify the location of where they're at. Okay. Some of you, okay, this is going to sound interesting. Some of you are in a relationship to a person where you have a personality difference. And people don't understand personalities. I used to see this all the time in my readings, and it's just like one of those weird things where sometimes we can love a person, but our personalities just don't get along. This can be opposites. This can be like something that's not quite a match, or like that's not quite a fit, or something that isn't necessarily going to work. For some of you, you might be holding on to a person in your life where it's not going to work. The relationship is not going to work, even if you want it to work. Okay. The thing about it is, especially with this reading, is that as far as relationships, sometimes we're so close to things, we don't see the red flags on somebody else. We see the best in somebody else. We don't see the things that they're doing that are toxic. We kind of maybe have grown accustomed to those patterns or those things with them because they're so close to us. So this is a time to really examine the people in your life and be like, is this a toxic relationship? Yes or no? Is this something that I want to continue? Yes or no? Is this working? Yes or no? My dad, was married for a very long time to my mother. So I have to say that he didn't pay attention to a lot of the things that were going on in that relationship. And so again, some of you might be in long-term relationships and you're not paying attention. Now, some of you might be in short-term relationships or just dating and not paying attention either. Like you're not paying attention to the red flags. You're not seeing things for how they actually are. You might not even really be listening to what they say. This is a time to really listen. My dad was kind of hard of hearing. He had hearing damage from a young age. So he didn't really listen the best. And when he listened, it was sometimes hard for him to hear maybe nuance or emotion. So try to look into things from that perspective of nuance and emotion, and really look at things from, with a very sensitive ear is what I want to say. Some of you might not, let's just say, how do I say this? At this time, you might not have any fucks for a lot of people. You might be very self-absorbed or focused on taking care of yourself. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but part of it is that you might miss some of the emotional connection, or you might miss the nuance in things. So pay attention to your audience, and pay attention to who's around you, and pay attention to what people are saying to you when they say it, and how they're saying it, and why they're saying it. And think a little bit like more about those kinds of things. My dad, and this has come up before, my dad, when he fought, he was really intense. He would get really pissed off. It took him a really long time to get there, but when he did, it was really intense. So some of you may have some intense arguments during this period of time with other people. Some of you, when you get upset, you might really be upset, like really, really upset. and say things either you don't mean or say things that are really hurtful. You know, my dad had a very like, you know, he could be really hurtful, unfiltered, you know, hurtful things that he would say. King of Swords kind of deal. So just be mindful, like some of you, that is what I'm seeing. I do feel like you have friends in spirit too. Like when you're fighting, it's like you have friends in spirit that are helping you kind of make your way through those arguments. I feel like those arguments are, my guide said, par for the course, like part of your journey, part of your experience. I have to say from personal experience, like the last 2 years have been about standing up for myself. And some of you, you're going to need to stand up for yourself, or you're going to need to tell somebody off, or you're going to need to you'd be like, you know, this is not okay. And it's very much about boundaries, very much about setting boundaries, deciding, okay, like, or figuring out who your friends are, because this little charm is about friends in spirit. So some of you, you're going to be really figuring out who your friends are. You might have arguments with friends during this period of time. Or you might have arguments with people that were once your friends. There might be a lot of frustration with friendships during this period of time. A couple of the interesting things that are showing up here is we have this, and we have this charm as well. To me, these are about relationships, a male-female relationships, sleeping with people. And the odd message here that comes through from my dad is that he would always say, you know, I cannot tell you about relationships. I cannot tell you what to do, because he's like, I'm your dad. I just can't give you advice about these things. And so it's very endearing that this comes up, because some of you might be really struggling in figuring out what you should do in your relationships. What is going to be the best course of action? Should you stay with a partner? Should you leave a partner? Do you like want to continue with a third party? Do you see any potential with a third party? You're going to want to book a reading with me, because this is where I can look at the cards and I can look at things and say, okay, well, this is what I see for those relationships. Some of you who are in relationships, you're really struggling with trying to decide whether you want to stay. For some of you, you might have had a separation, or some of you might have decided to get a divorce and you're in the process of like divorcing. You know, it feels very much like there's a lot of questions swirling about, should you be with a certain person? Is a person the one for you? It's really hard because, you know, my dad, he really couldn't give me advice about this. And it was always the times where I really needed his advice about should I, you know, believe in this person, you know? And let me tell you, it's interesting. The people that I questioned, you know, during the time when he was alive, the people that I dated, obviously I'm not together with any of them. Okay. And the people that I dated turned out to not be the best people for me. And I want to give that as like your answer. Those of you who are really questioning somebody, those of you who are like, okay, is this person the one for me? You wouldn't question it so much if you felt in your heart that they were the one for you, or they were a person that you could trust, or a person that you could have a long-term relationship with. Most likely, you're questioning it because you have some red flags. You have some things that you're like, I don't necessarily feel like I can trust this person. I don't necessarily feel like they're going to be good for me in the end. And that's why, you know, this is where it's hard to say if, you know, if they wouldn't. Most likely, you know, I can't answer that right now because this is not a private reading, but most likely if you're having to ask the question about if they're the person for you, most likely they're not the person for you. Because if in your heart you knew, yes, you would just be more content with it. It wouldn't be such a rough road. Now, some people, twin flame relationships, soulmate relationships can get really rough. Some of you are in or going through a period of time where you're questioning maybe a twin flame, or you're questioning whether you're, you know, it's a soulmate or not. And I always tell people that no matter what, whether it's twin flame or not, if something's toxic or if something's not good for you, then it's not good to stay. Or it's best to leave it alone. And so some people on the twin flame journey don't believe that, but that's my personal philosophy. We have this little sail ship here, which is about waving goodbye something. You know, this is a broken like 3 of swords. So this is waving goodbye to something, saying goodbye to something. You know, this is an interesting message. You know, my dad, you know, didn't really lift a lot of weights. Had he lifted more weights, he probably would have been in better health. He didn't always eat right, and he didn't always sleep right, and he didn't always drink enough water. And so some of you, you know, he drank a lot of coffee. Some of you who are drinking more caffeine and caffeinated beverages, I would encourage you to drink more water. In general, I would encourage you to drink more water, less alcohol, less coffee, things like that. What else? I always feel like the readings for my dad are so short. I wish I could kind of continue on because there's so many other messages. You know, my dad cared about me and my brother so much. Some of you are going to be really focused on children or starting a family during this period of time. And you're going to really want to prioritize them at this period of time. Or some of you may be really focused on them. Some of you may be really worried about them, or there might be something that you're worried about. Maybe they're not feeling well, or maybe there was an injury, or, you know, for sports or something, but like everything's going to be okay. You know, my dad was a physician. He was always sewing me and my brothers up one way or the other. So some of you, you know, are concerned about your children, but I want to tell you they're going to be okay. And, yeah, that's like the main message here. I think I'm going to leave off there. Thank you guys so much for watching. I send everyone big hugs and big kisses, and I will talk to you guys again soon. I wish you guys all the best. Take care.